Hey out there, legal warriors, do you ever wonder if the truth really matters? Does the truth matter in controlling an outcome in a criminal case? Does what really happened really affect the outcome totally, or are there some other factors too? So you might be surprised by my answer to that. So if you're interested in this area of the law, if you're interested in objective reality versus people's own perspective, stay tuned because this is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear, and my law firm's been defending people all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like, please subscribe, because more people will get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. Do you think it matters? Does the truth control what happens in anything in life, but especially in criminal cases? Well, my answer to that is usually not. And how I'm going to cover that in this video is by covering three things. How people think the criminal system works, how they wish it works, and how it actually works. Because knowing what to actually expect and what actually matters in a criminal case is pretty helpful in sort of not losing our mind or having too much anxiety while we're dealing with it. Because you know what I always say, the expected outcome or expected process minus the observed process equals frustration. Expectation minus observation equals frustration. So if what you expect to happen is what actually happens, you're not going to be very frustrated. If you expect it to be a lot more pristine and a lot more truth-oriented and it turns out not to be, it's very upsetting. So it's important to know what to expect going into a criminal case. So how do most people think it works? How do most people think the criminal system works? Well, from doing this for 30 years, somebody who's new to the system probably thinks that, hey, it's the prosecutor's job to actually figure out what really happened, or it's the judge's job to decide what really happened, and it's really a search for truth, right? And the truth will come out, and if I tell the truth and I didn't do anything, then the system's going to set me free. And anyone who has any experience in life or in the criminal system knows that is just simply not the case. That is not what we see happen in real life. You might be surprised, but the judge decides very little about what actually happened. The judge's role is sort of a referee to make decisions about what evidence comes in or not comes in. To decide if cases can be continued and what the obligations are of the parties, and if there's a finding of guilt, to issue a sentence. But unless there's a trial by judge, the judge is not the person, she or he is not the person who decides what happened. And so many people think that's how it works, that the judge is the most important person in the courtroom, and really that's not how it works. What about the prosecutor? Does the prosecutor decide what happened? Well, no, the prosecutor doesn't really decide what happened. The prosecutor works for the government. And while in writing, the prosecutor's job is to do justice, as we might guess, justice is pretty personal, right? When I was a prosecutor, I took tagging cases. When people were to graffiti things, I took those a lot more seriously than other prosecutors. So for me, justice in those cases was more harsh than a different prosecutor in my same office, right? So justice is personal, and so the prosecutor isn't really, unless you find an exceptional one, trying to find out what happened. They're taking a position, more often than not, based upon what's in the police report. So they're not looking for what happened really either. Now, your attorney hopefully is trying to figure out what happened and make the people in the system care about it, but they're not inherently designed to care about that. Certain really awesome judges or awesome prosecutors will care more about what actually happened, but the system is so big and there's so many pressures. The truth of it is, in my opinion, that's often not the case. And so how we think it works is some big quest for truth and figuring out what really happened to be fair. And if that's what your expectation is coming in, you're probably going to be disappointed, because if that were the case, people would want to hear your side of the story. If you try to tell your side of the story in court, the court will stop you immediately. Anything you say can be used against you. Stop talking, defendant. Right? So will the prosecutor. The prosecutor won't even talk to you for the most part, and they're not allowed to talk to you if you have an attorney. Okay, and that's just that the rules of professional responsibility don't even let the prosecutor talk to you. So no one in the system, in my opinion, is really trying to find out what the truth is. So that's how people think it works. They think they can just go to court and explain, and that's not how it works. That might be how it works in a traffic infraction, but not in crimes. So moving on to step 2, how do people wish it would work? Well, I think most people wish it would work in a way where the judge would ask the defendant, please tell me what happened, and then ask the person on the other side, the police officer or the victim, please tell me what happened, and then decide what's fair, what to do about it. I think most people want to be heard. Most people want to be, treated fairly and think that every part of the story is going to be considered, all of the defendant's background and all of the circumstances and what the alleged victim did wrong too. That's how we wish it would work. But let me tell you, if you start speaking poorly about an alleged victim, right, it's not going to go so well for you in court. Victim blaming, assuming that they're the victim, that's what the court does because that's what they're labeled in the report, right? If it's in the report, it must be true. That doesn't go over so well if you're a defendant in a criminal court. So how people wish it would work is, hey, let's hear each side, let's decide what's fair, let's try to, better the world, right? If someone did something wrong, maybe they need some counseling or some therapy, right? Maybe they need something that's not going to cost them their job or put them on the street. That's how we wish it would work, but in my opinion, that's not how it really works. So, drum roll, please. Right? Drum roll. How does it really work? Number 3. Well, how it really works is, in my opinion, that each person in the system is self-interested. And I'm not talking about trying to make a profit. I'm saying they're trying to get through their day. They're trying to make themselves feel like they mean something, that the job is meaningful. They're trying to keep their job. They're trying to do their part to protect society from their point of view. And they're also, there's plenty of prosecutors and judges, they're trying to be fair to the defendant too. But each version of that is not based upon figuring out what really happened. It's based upon what's important to them. So how I think the system works and how I think that a defendant should think the system works is that a prosecutor's job is not to let you go. A prosecutor's job is to respond to the case in some way, right? Just think, a prosecutor is a lawyer. They had to go through usually a 4-year degree, a 3-year law school. They had to pass the bar. They had to find a job, right? They've had to do a lot to get where they're at. And so they're going to take their role seriously. And it's not their job to let a defendant go. It's not their job in their mind to find the truth. It's their job to respond to the case in some way. So usually what you should think of it as a defendant is maybe that it would be good to do some things so the prosecutor can see that they are part of a response to the case besides just guilt or innocence, right? So in a DUI case, maybe a defendant does an alcohol evaluation and follow-up. In an assault case, maybe a defendant should do an anger management class or domestic violence classes. You should talk to your attorney to see how they think about things. But how I think about it is that a prosecutor is more willing to hear another side of the story if a defendant has done something where the prosecutor personally can feel like they've been some part of a solution. Right? I was a prosecutor for 7 years. I didn't look at my job as to let people go. I didn't look at my job as to convict people. I looked at my job when I was a prosecutor as, hey, what are we doing to improve the defendant's situation, right? Whoever this defendant got here, there's probably some reasons, and maybe the system should be used to not let the crisis go to waste. And so, number one, probably try to do some stuff so the prosecutor has some options, but listen to your attorney. I think the second thing that needs to happen, and for how the system really works, is that some time needs to pass, right? Early on, everybody is really uptight about the case. The first time you see something shocking, you're shocked, right? That's the biggest shock. Hey, that's a very upsetting case. The alleged victim has a bloody nose, and I'm really mad about that. Look at this terrible photo, right? So, early on in the case, people are the most upset. As time passes, the system's a little less mad. And time passes where the defendant can have lawful behavior, right? So, as the case gets older and there's lawful behavior by the accused person, it's easier for the judge and the prosecutor to see the defendant as a better risk, right? So you sort of combine, let's let some time pass, let's obey the court's rules, let's stay out of trouble, let's do some things, And now step 3 is now your attorney can sort of tell your side of the story, right? So it's not all about the truth, but it's about getting the prosecutor or the judge to see there may be another side to the story. But unless all things are in place, they're sort of not programmed to listen. Okay, that's just human nature. It's not personal. So once the case is old enough and the defendant has done enough, now the people that are in power might be able to actually hear what actually happened. And so that's why the truth does matter. Okay, but we make the mistake, or clients make the mistake, in thinking that convincing someone of the truth is what will set them free. That will not, because the prosecutor and the judge, except in the most extraordinary circumstances, don't have the mental space to believe another version totally. They don't have to get there. I always say, only ask the government to do as much as you need them to do to let you go, right? If they have doubt and you've done enough and they're willing to let you go because of their caseload or because of their level of doubt, that's one thing. Don't ask them to swallow the whole pill, because they won't, and we don't need to. So let go of any need to be believed. Let your defense attorney believe you. Let your family believe you. It doesn't matter what the prosecution or the judge actually believes. It matters what they do, right? Because what we want to do is we want to have you recover from the situation in a way where your future isn't harmed, where you're not put in jail, where you don't lose your job, right? And so it's important to know how the system actually works. It's not about finding the truth, in my opinion. It's about doing the best to protect the public, doing the best to help the defendant, doing the best that we can with the system that's overloaded, that there aren't enough resources for, and have a whole lot of good people in. But when we imagine as clients or defendants that it works a certain way and it works another way, it'll just sort of drive us nuts. It'll cause anxiety, and that's not necessary. So I've been on a bit of a soapbox. I hope you stay tuned here to the end, and thank you so much for listening. And if you find these useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. And if you need some criminal help, feel free to reach out to my firm. Again, I'm Lance Fryrear. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years. We'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.